Single dad rescued a billionaire, then left without a word. The rain came down in sheets that night, the kind that turns highways into rivers and visibility into a gamble. Marcus Chen gripped the steering wheel of his 12-year-old Honda, squinting through the blur of his struggling wipers. In the backseat, his daughter Emma hummed softly to herself, lost in whatever 8-year-old dreams occupied her mind during their late drive home from her grandmother's house. He almost didn't see the car. It was a sleek black Tesla, wrapped around the guardrail like a discarded toy, steam rising from its crumpled hood. Marcus's heart lurched. Without thinking, he pulled onto the shoulder, hazard lights cutting through the downpour like desperate beacons. "Stay here, sweetheart," he said, already reaching for the door handle. "Daddy, be careful," Emma's small voice called after him. The cold hit him like a physical blow as he stumbled toward the wreck. Through the shattered driver's window, he could see a man slumped against the airbag, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. Marcus yanked at the door, jammed. He tried again, putting his full weight into it, and finally it gave way with a groan of twisted metal. "Sir, can you hear me?" Marcus patted the man's face gently. The stranger's eyes fluttered open, unfocused and glassy. My chest," the man gasped. Marcus had taken a CPR course 3 years ago when Emma started swimming lessons. He'd never imagined he'd actually need it. His fingers found the man's pulse, thready and irregular. In the distance, he could smell something acrid. "Gasoline. We need to move. Now." Marcus hooked his arms under the stranger's shoulders and pulled, ignoring the protest of his own back, a souvenir from his construction job. The man was heavier than he looked, dressed in what Marcus's limited fashion sense recognized as an expensive suit, now ruined by rain and blood. They'd made it maybe 10 feet when the first flames appeared, licking out from under the hood. Marcus dragged faster, his sneakers slipping on the wet asphalt. Behind them, the fire grew, greedy and bright against the dark night. They collapsed together on the grass beyond the shoulder, Marcus's lungs burning, just as a small explosion sent a shower of sparks into the sky. "Thank you," the man wheezed. You saved my life." Marcus was already pulling out his phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. "Just hold on. Help's coming." The ambulance arrived within minutes, followed by fire trucks and police cruisers that turned the rural highway into a carnival of flashing lights. Paramedics swarmed the injured man, checking vitals, asking questions Marcus couldn't hear over the noise. A police officer approached Marcus with a clipboard, taking his statement while he stood there, soaked and shivering, watching them load the stranger onto a stretcher. "We'll need your contact information," the officer said, "for the report and insurance." Marcus glanced back at his car, where Emma's face was pressed against the window, her eyes wide with worry. He thought about the hospital bills from her pneumonia last winter that he was still paying off in monthly installments. About the lawyer who'd sent that letter last month, his ex-wife's new attorney demanding increased child support when Marcus could barely afford their current arrangement. About the landlord who'd mentioned that the rent might need to go up next lease renewal. Good deeds in America, he'd learned, had a way of becoming complicated. Lawsuits, liability, even heroes needed lawyers they couldn't afford. "Actually," Marcus said slowly, "I really need to get my daughter home. It's late, and she has school tomorrow." The officer frowned. "Sir, you're a witness to the accident, and you provided emergency aid. We really should." "I didn't see the accident happen. I just stopped to help. That man needs medical attention, and I need to take care of my daughter. I'm sure your report will be fine without me standing here in the rain." Before the officer could protest further, Marcus was back in his car, engine turning over, pulling carefully away from the chaos. In the rearview mirror, he watched the lights fade into the storm. "Is that man going to be okay?" Emma asked quietly. "Yeah, baby. He's going to be just fine. You're a hero, Daddy." Marcus smiled despite his exhaustion. "I'm just a dad who did what anyone would do." 3 weeks later, Marcus was elbow-deep in drywall dust when his boss called him into the trailer that served as their on-site office. "You got a visitor," Pete said, jerking his thumb toward the parking lot. "Some guy in a suit." Marcus's first thought was lawyer, and his stomach dropped. He walked outside, prepared for the worst, and found himself face to face with the man from the highway. He looked different, clean and healthy, the gash on his forehead now just a pink line, his expensive suit replaced with an even more expensive one. You're a difficult man to find, the stranger said, extending his hand. Richard Morrison. Marcus shook it automatically. I'm sorry, I don't. You saved my life 3 weeks ago. Left before I could thank you properly. It took my security team this long to track you down through traffic cameras and emergency dispatch records. Richard smiled. I'm not used to people walking away from me. I had to get my daughter home. Yes, Emma. She's 8, loves art class, and has a stuffed elephant named Mr. Trunks. Richard must have seen Marcus's expression because he added quickly, I'm not being creepy. I just wanted to know who I owed my life to. You don't owe me anything. That's where you're wrong. Richard pulled an envelope from his jacket. I did some research, Mr. Chen. I know about your daughter's medical bills. Your custody situation. The fact that you're working 2 jobs and still barely making ends meet. He held out the envelope. Consider this a thank you. Marcus didn't take it. I don't want your money. It's not. Richard paused, studying him. You really mean that? I helped because it was the right thing to do. Not because I wanted something from you. For a long moment, they stood there in the parking lot, dust from the construction site swirling around them in the breeze. Richard lowered the envelope slowly. You know, he said, I've built a fortune by understanding what people want. Everyone wants something. Money, power, connections. But you. He shook his head, something like wonder in his voice. You walked away. I walked away to protect my daughter. And myself. I've seen how these things go. How what things go? Marcus gestured vaguely. Rich guy, poor guy, accident, lawyers. It gets messy. I just wanted to help someone who needed help. Richard was quiet for a moment. Then he tucked the envelope back into his jacket and pulled out a business card instead. Okay. No money. But take this. If you or Emma ever need anything, medical care, education expenses, just someone to listen, you call me. No strings. No lawyers. Just one human being helping another. Marcus took the card, studying the simple black text. Morrison Industries. CEO. You're that Morrison, he said slowly. The billionaire. I prefer, the guy who almost died in a Tesla. Less pretentious. Richard's smile was genuine. Marcus, do you know how many cars passed my wreck that night before you stopped? 17. I counted them through the window, thinking each one might be my last chance. 16 people saw a problem and decided it wasn't their business. You saw a problem and decided someone's life mattered more than your convenience. That's not common. That's not even normal anymore. That's extraordinary. It shouldn't be extraordinary. It should be normal. Yes, Richard said softly. It should be. Maybe that's the real problem. They shook hands again, and Richard started to walk away, then turned back. That man you pulled from the wreck. He's going to spend the rest of his life trying to figure out how to be worthy of what you did. How to live in a way that honors the gift you gave him. His voice was thick with emotion. Thank you, Marcus, for reminding me that not everything in life is a transaction. Marcus watched him drive away in a car that probably cost more than Marcus would make in 5 years. He looked down at the business card in his hand, then up at the sky, where the sun was breaking through the clouds. That night, Emma asked him about the man in the suit. He was the man from the accident, Marcus explained, tucking her into bed. He wanted to say thank you. Did you get a reward? Marcus smiled, kissing her forehead. I got something better. I got reminded that being kind doesn't need a reward. The reward is knowing you helped someone who needed help. Like you helped me. Exactly like that, baby. As he turned off her light, Emma's voice came through the darkness. Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be like you. Marcus stood in the doorway, his throat tight. In a world that often felt like it was drowning in cynicism and self-interest, maybe that was the real story worth telling. Not about the rescue or the billionaire or the money he'd refused. But about a little girl who learned that the truest wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in the courage to do the right thing, even when no one was watching. Even when walking away was easier than staying. Even when kindness cost you something. That was the lesson worth passing on. That was the inheritance that mattered. And as Marcus finally climbed into his own bed, exhausted but somehow lighter, he thought maybe, just maybe, he was leaving the world a little better than he'd found it. One stopped car at a time.